Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay Moore.
This is Greg Cruz.
This is Dan.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
Nathan
This is Sebastian Younger.
This is David Lab.
This is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick Gillette.
I'm Christopher
This is Dr. Bob Greenberg.
I'm Laird Hamilton.
This is Nate Boyer, co-founder of MVP, Merging Vets and Players, and this is the Break It Down Show.
And now, the Break It Down Show with John Leon Guerrero and Pete A. Turner.
That's right. We got Nate in the house, and actually, we're in Nate's house. Yeah, we're going to break it down. Now I got Scott sitting right seat with me, or technically left seat in this case. So he's Scott Huesing, the author of Echo and Ramadi, is hanging out with me. You can buy his book on Amazon. That's the best place to go. And you can also find him at Echo and Ramadi on Twitter. Nate Boyer, of course, is Nate Boyer 37 everywhere you want to go, and heck, everybody knows who you are anyhow. So let's get into what's up. It's been about, I don't know, maybe a year, maybe a little more since we last sat down with you. And it just so happened by timing wise that this whole NFL thing came down. Do you want to talk about that? Do you want to talk about, no. Okay, good.
Now we can.
Well, you're always so thoughtful with these things. And I mean this, like you really try to, okay, so let me back up. Let me say this. Since you and I sat down, we had, I got to think of his name now. His name left my head. What's his name?
Colin Kaepernick.
No, not Colin Kaepernick. No. I'm going a different direction. Not Donald Trump. Since we sat down, we had Sebastian Younger on the show.
Sebastian.
And Sebastian looked at me and said, here's what I need you guys to do. And meaning all guys like us. Like, you guys have to help all of us assholes who aren't in the military find the middle ground. Even if it's uncomfortable, how do we all get so we can all get going in one direction instead of you're an idiot, you're an imbecile, you're all this nonsense that goes on that divides us. So you are good at this. You're good at putting up your flag and saying, here's the reasonable thing. I may or may not agree with you, but I fight for your reason, your ability to disagree with these things. And that's a very reasonable position. So has anything evolved with that for you since those days way back when you first got Colin to consider taking a knee instead of just sitting on the bench?
What do you mean evolved?
Like, has your view on any of these topics, like the Blue Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, any of the Star Spangled Banner stuff, have you evolved your position at all in any way that matters? Or
all matter.
Yeah, it's just everybody matters.
All matter. Everything matters. Yeah, no, it's been an interesting 2 years. I never thought I would be involved in any type of activism or anything like this. It wasn't something that was ever my focus. I'm pretty apolitical. I try to stay out of that stuff, and
yeah.
But at the same time, I think it hurts. I think Scott can attest to this. You can attest to this. That what's more frustrating than anything is just going to fight for your country, then coming back to such a divided place. In a place where we just seem to hate each other so much and always are at each other's throats, and we don't want to respect one another or understand one another, and you get away from this appreciation, what we did in the military and what others did that were far more courageous than us, and paid the ultimate sacrifice, some of them, and it just this week alone with the NFL's decision, the ruling, that now they will stand, which is something the NBA has been doing for a long time, and it's not a surprising thing. It just was a little frustrating that it took so long for them to kind of get this all squared away. But I think about the fact that I've been hit up nonstop this week about this, and I've got people that are trying to book me for interviews on Monday about this whole thing, and I'm like, Monday's Memorial Day, right? And they're like, oh, yeah, that's right. I'm like, okay, so
10 o'clock?
That's the problem right there. Is like they're going to focus on these issues instead of
they don't even
the
care.
Big picture.
They don't think about that. They're not even thinking about that.
Yeah.
It's not even in their wheelhouse because it's not clickbait. It's not a hot topic. It's not divisive or whatever. And I'm just like, and not that they need to reach out. Not that I expect anybody to reach out to me for Memorial Day and be like, hey, it's Memorial Day, like whatever. It's fine, but to not even recognize that you're reaching out to a veteran to talk about this issue and not even recognize that, Memorial Day is Monday, it's a little frustrating.
And there's no doubt, like you've got PFC or Lance Corporal Libby. And I know you've got to have people, and I've got people too that that aren't with us anymore. So yeah, it would.
Well,
be
we were talking before we came up. I was kind of sidetracking Pete. I said, hey, what's Nate's stance right now in this whole thing? And I agree. We're 100% aligned. We're the same sheet of music. Is hey, show me a good protest, and I'll show you a great democracy in action. And everything you've done besides that. And I say, hey, if it's their right, that's fine. Whatever institutionally they want to do, they own the clubs, they own the organization. But additionally, I was talking to some friends too, and they say, well, this is an entertainment industry too. We pay money to go watch sports, not see politics. What do you think about that? Should the fans that pay really pretty high ticket prices for the most part to professional sports, should they have to be that part of that's their release valve? They go to the game on Sunday, they bring their kids, and then there's all this commotion around. They drag politics or personal opinions on it instead of saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to buy a 30-minute space on whatever public TV and get my message out that way and use my own money to do it, because essentially they're using the broadcast airtime that the fans are paying for.
Well, they do the same thing in at the Oscars and stuff like that now. And it's the difference in that is you got movies, it's scripted. They don't have an opportunity they can choose to work on projects that are pushing a narrative that they believe in, but it's a writer writes the script, the director directs it, you have dialogue, you have things you have to say or don't get to say. So their moment is at the Oscars or whatever.
You're like the trifecta too, because you've crossed over veteran community, as pro sports and Hollywood now. So, I mean, it's challenging to find that balance between staying true to, the veteran community and not, getting too immersed in it, knowing that, to be good at any game, I don't care what it is, you got to know the rules and you got to play the game to be successful at it. I mean, Michael Jordan wasn't, hitting, softball in the offseason. He was shooting free throws because he knew he had to be good at that game.
Yeah, I mean, the veteran community is something that's always it's always something that I'm very sensitive towards. It's like anytime I do anything or say anything, I think about or worry about the response I'll get from the vet community, even when I know it's going to be something nasty or whatever, because it's not a popular stance I might be taking. I still take that into account for sure, 100%. But I'm getting to the point now as I'm growing through this that I also don't want to play to the base. I don't want to not everything I do, I don't want it to just cater it towards the veteran community. I'm not trying to get everyone in the veteran community to like me or love me, right? That's not my goal. I just want us to all, understand one another, recognize one another. I want to break down that divide and sort of build the bridges between the veteran and civilian communities, not just the division in this country, but we're all the same. We're all human beings. We all want the same basic shit. At the end of the day,
what do we all want? What do you think?
I think we just want to be loved. We want to be respected, listened to. We want what's best for our families. We want to feel safe, like those basics. You know what I mean? The things you think about when you're a little kid. That's what we all want. Almost everybody. There's a few psychos that are shooting up schools and doing other crazy crap. I don't know what they want, but most of us want that stuff. You know what I mean? And it's it's just frustrating to see how fragmented, I guess, we are, and how we all get put in these boxes and generalized against. Because when we talk about racism, we talk about all these things which clearly exist, obviously exist, but it's turning into this generalization against police officers. You're going to be hard pressed to find anybody that wants to be a cop now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's a very thankless job at this point. Not even a thankless job, you're sort of demonized. And then I look at the veteran community and we're appreciated. People really appreciate what we do, but we're also generalized against, in the sense of people think we all think a certain way, or we should go into this field or that field, or they think they know what's best for us because of what we did, and they didn't experience it themselves, and they don't know. We're as diverse as any community out there. Yeah. We are all over the map. When you serve people from all over the country, different religions, skin colors, we're as different as it gets.
Well, it's hard to really categorize people too. In the private sector, when guys transition, I think we talked about this one time too. Is guys that see the types of situations that all three of us here have seen in combat, the worst humanity has to offer, and all that trauma that you build up, and however you compartmentalize it, however you unpack it. Obviously, Nate has unpacked none of it because his apartment is complete.
I see his hopes and dreams over there in that old shitty box.
It's just like Mark Pattison's, only in reverse order. He's about to unpack. Mark was totally packing when we did his, and so however you decide to unpack that trauma, it's a very personal thing, and whether you move it into whatever industry, the entertainment industry like this, or pro sports, or the private sector, is those people that are suffering from any type of post-traumatic stress disorder, any of that trauma that they're bringing with them. I think too that message of these guys are survivors, and they want to be viewed in that light, and not these dour drag ass vets that are coming home from battle after 5, 6, 7, 10 deployments. How many did you do, Nate?
Only 3.
Only
God,
3.
I feel like
and to some that's like only 3. That's
Coward.
3 more. Yeah, coward. That's horrible.
That was great, right?
I
was prepared to get punched in the face.
That was
drop
bad.
Coward all the time. It's a great one. It just
But when you transition, they want to. They're always saying, "Hey, we want to hire vets," but they want these cookie cutter vets. And so let's talk about the first responders and the vets. Is I was saying, so if there's ever a resume builder, like having PTS and how you overcame that and grew from that. I think it was Jim Mattis said, post traumatic growth. I think he coined that, and if he did, I'll give it credit to him anyway. I like the guy.
I say it all the time too.
But they want, private sector or whoever, they want these cookie cutter veterans. Oh, you served 4 years and you did this job, but you don't want the guy that's a soup sandwich that's really been through all this stuff. They say they do, but I don't know how that translates. So
they're afraid of what might happen. You know what I mean? Or they're afraid of the commitment. And I've seen it from the other side too. I've seen vets who've done a lot of great stuff on the battlefield and all that, and then they're not ready or prepared to take on that next step either. And then they've let down. I've been let down by people that I've helped out in the veteran community to get them an opportunity. And it's like they flake, and it sucks because it's a reflection of us, and it shouldn't be. But, we're all individuals. We make those choices individually. But it happens. But on the other side of that coin, there's a lot of people that haven't been given the opportunity, and they don't know how to approach that. I'm pushing for a lot of the vets I've been working with lately it's a fine line between sharing your story, being proud of that, and being arrogant or being or boastful or bragging or whatever. It's a tough one because I struggled with it for a long time. And Jay Glazer, who I started MVP with, Merging Vets and Players, the nonprofit, he'd been trying to pull it out of me since I met him in 2015 because I didn't want to say anything. I didn't want to share anything because I was just like, we don't talk about stuff in our community. Like, we did stuff and then we don't talk about it. And first of all, it's not necessarily healthy, especially when you've got some scars, and some trauma bottled up, and you don't share it, and you don't speak it. But also, civilians they want to hear our stories, and they want to help us out. But if you don't let them know who you are and what you were a part of, they'll never know. Like, they'll just assume, oh, that guy was in the Army. I just assume he did this, and I don't know anything about his story until you share his story.
Yeah.
They're like, oh my, wow, like, that's incredible. You did that, you overcame that, and you're here. Of course I want to hire you. Of course I want to give you a shot, So it's a tough one. I still struggle with it. Like, where is that?
So how'd you get to that point? I mean, obviously, I put mine in like 300 pages in a book, to share not only the fighting and the friction and the pain and the emotion that all my guys went through, but I hit that point where I said, after pulling all that out of all these guys, like, I had to give myself up too, and that's not easy. So, what was your point when people started asking you, well, what is your story, and you started feeling comfortable sharing it?
Yeah, it it was like finding not only the way to tell it, but like the moments, the parts of the story that actually ended up meaning the most to me anyway. That was more about honoring the other guys, talking about like what I was a part of, not necessarily what I did, but also just understanding and being okay with the fact, being proud of the fact that it's like a little bit crazy. A lot of people wouldn't do this, and not because they're cowards, just because, you know,
we don't use that word a lot.
We're all a little fucked up. Like, we just are, dude. We have to embrace it, but like we're a little fucked up. I don't know what it was. Everybody's got a different story. I had a good childhood. So a lot of guys I served with had bad childhoods or tough childhoods. I didn't. You know, we weren't always wealthy, but I was very fortunate to have a very strong, sturdy family. But I think for me, it was some of the neighborhoods. I grew up in very different neighborhoods. I grew up in a kind of a tougher neighborhood, and then when I was a little bit older, it was a very suburban, safe, like comatose neighborhood is what it felt like to me. And I just wanted nothing to do with that. You know, I wanted to break away from that. So that was like, you know, a carryover of teenage angst that just led me to the military, I think. And so we've all got those different reasons, but yeah, like embracing that we embraced it when we joined, while we were in, and then, you know, realizing how unique that is, and being able to voice that a little bit and share it and be proud of it.
There is something though, you're not just an infantry guy, you know, you're a long tabber, you're a special forces guy. You're not the dirt bike kid, you're the street bike kid, but you made choices that were dangerous and reckless, and obviously you're driven by something, and look, everybody wants to have a
You can
motorcycle.
say stupid.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Not offensive.
it is in a lot of ways stupid, but it's also part of who you are. Not just the fact that you're dumb, but like you have friends that will have bikes.
I meant stupid choices. I wasn't talking about intellect, Pete.
Oh, I was.
I don't know.
Anyhow, so the choices that you make, the risky things that you do, I mean, that, you know, a line can be drawn directly to the Battle of Ramadi for you. And then the audacity to actually be able to lead Marines in a combat situation and to get out of them what you need to get out of them, knowing the rest of your life, you'll have a little bit of a burden that you'll carry for those guys, the ones that break along the way and all the, you know, because there's voids that have to be filled. And then you're like a lot like me. We grew up in the same basic area, and like our hometowns are basically neighbor towns, and Independence, I would imagine, be one of them. You know, like Benicia is just as sleepy as anything else. You're like, how to do something? You know, I didn't go to college to do nothing. Let me start jumping off cliffs until I find a cliff I like jumping off of a whole bunch. Mine turned out to be a combat cliff. You know, I just kept going. But what was it? What's that? No. No, I was a spy, so we had donuts, but and hot coffee. But what do you think? What drove you? Because it isn't.
What were those muffins? It wasn't donuts over there. It was Otis.
Those Otis Spunkmeyer muffins.
Yeah.
Those were good. Yeah. You know, I brought ice cream all the time. That was my
Ribbits
thing.
and Otis Spunkmeyer.
What else was that?
I don't know. He was special forces. They probably
things?
catered chow into him.
No. What were the honey things? The
honey buns.
Honey
Those,
buns.
Honey buns.
those
Honey
swirls.
buns.
Yeah, those things were wonderful.
Yeah, I can tell. I'm kidding.
No, you're not. I'm fat.
I'm serious.
You have friends that were just as crazy, just as made questionable decisions, but they didn't go that route. They had other opportunities. We all have opportunities, college, not college, or whatever. But what do you think makes you different? Because you're also different from the standard 10-level soldier who's like, I'm going to be a light wheel mechanic. Great job, but not a job for you. Why?
Man, I just love, I'm a competitive person. I love challenges, and I don't like being comfortable. I just don't. I actually envy the man that is comfortable, and you know, okay with working at whatever, you know, X job, and just like getting not just, I don't want to say just getting by, because a lot of those guys, what's more important to them maybe is like, you know, their family, they've got, you know, these these hobbies, and like they just want to work for the weekend in a sense or whatever. And I don't know, that would just drive me nuts. There's like different I guess, viewpoints of what crazy is. A lot of people think what we do is crazy, but what I think is crazy is someone that does something on a daily basis that they're just not like moved by. You know what I mean?
Do you think that's the replacement though for that type of lifestyle we lead? I mean, that high, constantly pushing near the red line, you know, at least for me is, you know, there's no way to replace that type of adrenaline or friction of combat or even just garrison being in the military, the training cycle, and you have to bam, bam, bam. And maybe it's scheduling radio shows or games or charity events and giving back now like you do, and staying that active.
Do you know Tyler Gray? You met Tyler Gray before?
No.
A buddy of mine, he was in special operations as well, and he's working out here doing a lot of different things. And he described it in a pretty interesting way that I thought was very, very smart. And he was talking about, he's like, I don't have as many issues. I mean, and he's severely wounded, almost lost an arm and all this stuff. And he's like, I don't really feel like I have post-traumatic stress as much as I have like lack of traumatic stress now that I'm out. He's like, I miss all that. I'm seeking traumatic stress in a sense.
Spot on.
Like,
I've told Pete that, it's the absence of that friction that I really found the hardest thing for me to deal with. So, like you, I, continue to exercise fanatically. Some guys it's eat donuts fanatically, or this gourmet deer jerky that Cody has so graciously served up. Your friend /
Cody continues to deliver.
Cody's my best
personal chef. Yeah,
why.
he is crushing it since we walked in the door.
I'm going to tell you a funny Cody story.
Beer jerky and a toothpicker.
We had a great story.
In like spit cups, he's like, "Oh, I saw the Copenhagen." Like he already ID'd the Copenhagen just peering out of my bag. True confession on there.
The host.
Yeah, he is.
He's about 6'3", 270.
A nice flat.
Who's he look like? Who's his
fastball.
celebrity look-alike? I'm usually pretty good at this, but I'm having trouble nailing it down.
There's a tiny bit of Tony Danza in there, but it's not enough to stand.
Tony Danza. They are not in the same weight class, man. Tony the Tiger would Tony the Tiger would like throw a flurry of punches, and Cody would just like squeeze, like anaconda squeeze, and take him down.
Cody, what would your finishing move be in WWE wrestling? Pile driver.
It's also his finishing move in the bedroom.
Hey, I don't want to get you said you don't want to talk about your personal life.
It's not my personal life. I seen it.
He's your roommate.
I haven't seen it. I'm just kidding. That's gross.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I hope my mom doesn't listen to
You opened that one up.
I did. Yeah. He opened that one up. Hi-oh. Wait, real quick, since we're on the topic of Cody, I got to tell the story. So we used to go down to, when I was in college, I was old. I was a 29-year-old freshman at Texas, right? But all the college kids, they go to South Padre Island in South Texas for spring break every year. So I used to go because I'm a college kid, And we went down there. Was it for your birthday? This wasn't even spring break then. This was this is how bad I was in college. I went there during spring break, and then also another time that year for his birthday. Like we go down there, and we had like a good friend of ours who had a house we could like crash in, and we'd crash there. We'd do the beach during the day. Cody's whipping up gourmet margaritas with like the whole fruit salad coming out of him. We're going to the beach, and awesome.
Did he go to Le Cordon Bleu? We didn't mention.
He went to Concordia University.
Okay,
and tried to pitch, like you said.
Tried.
Right.
God, the hits just keep coming.
He said it. So we go out that night. It's like the last night in town, and we go out that night, and we go. I totally pulled the military card to get us in like the VIP backdoor locals only entrance to this bar. And so we're back there, and it's like the karaoke rooms back there. And there's like a long list of people that want to sing coming up. And I go up, I'm like, Cody, I'm going to get us some drinks, man. And so I go up to the list, and I write down like proud to be an American, and like, something guy like $2. Not like, he's like, really? And I'm like, hey, man, I'm a veteran, And he's like, oh, okay. Yeah, you'll be next. So we go up there and sing proud to be an American. He announces us and he goes, all right, next up we got Nate and Cody, who both got back from Afghanistan recently. Cody's never served a day in the military in his life.
He's been to the Salvation Army a couple of times.
He's been to the Salvation Army. He walks up there like awkwardly, like looks at me. I'm like, just go with it, go with it. So we like sing the song, and we get done, and like people are coming up to us and shaking his hand. They're like,
man.
"Thank you so much, son. I really appreciate." Nobody bought us a drink.
There's some
drink was
not
purchased.
one drink.
No, not one. They're like, "Thank you so much, guys. Yeah, here's a glass of water."
Cody's going to get a bunch of hate mail now from
Here's a handful of thank you.
from some stolen valor guy listening to this pod. Like, I'm going to find that guy. That's BS. But for the record, no drinks. So he didn't.
So he didn't. Yeah, he didn't.
That's good. So he didn't profit
He didn't
from
profit.
Did not get laid too.
Still hasn't been.
He had to throw that one in there. Yeah.
Did not get pile drivered that night, huh?
Nothing off the turnbuckle.
Oh wow.
I once was in a bar in Vail, and they had the great idea, maybe Afghanistan made me think of it, where you and your buddy could sign up and put gloves on and get into a ring in the bar and just beat each other to death for as long as you could stand it. But it's Vail, so you're like 20 seconds in, and you're huffing and puffing.
Altitude, yeah.
Yeah, and arms just hanging, It just is hilarious watching these guys not beat each other up and absolutely trying to, but having no energy left.
Just having Stripes flashbacks when they're out in the mud wrestling with John Kenny. Good to see you doing that, Ox.
The lean, mean fighting machine. Yeah, absolutely. But now we got derailed pretty heavily there. What were you talking about?
I think it was Nate's turn. Nate was on mic.
All right, Nate, what's your question?
I had a question.
Sure, why not?
Okay. Since you started off with that topic of everything with the anthem and all that stuff.
Yeah.
First of all, do you know the history of the Star Spangled Banner at sporting events, like why it all started and all that? Because
really.
for the record, I didn't know this until I was.
I may not be surprised to hear the answer, but no, I can't pull it, so I don't know it.
But I didn't know any of this till I was involved in all that stuff. But before we get into that, like, what are your just personal, as personal as we can get, feelings on that? And
yeah, I mean,
from the get go and even now, and over the last 2 years, I guess.
This episode of the Break It Down Show is brought to you by Lions Rock Productions.
That's us.
We publish, evaluate, and develop podcasts just like this one, consult others to build their own, and create associated content and content marketing strategies.
So if you're launching or expanding your social media presence, your business or your personal brand, or if you just want to take your media presence to the next level,
reach out to us on Twitter
at Pete A. Turner
or at JohnLG69.
at the Break It Down Show.
There's 1,000 ways to get a hold of us.
Now enjoy the show.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, when I look at it, there's a couple of issues. One, when our country puts predominantly people of color, predominantly dudes of color, and they're the ones that get murdered the most, and they get upset about that situation, I'm obligated as a member of society to have some empathy and understand that they're in a place that's comparable to where we've all served, in their world. Like if you grew up in Richmond, right by where you grew up, it is not right for society to put those people in that place and expect a different outcome. Like if I grew up in Richmond, I don't know that I would be any different than the guys who are gunslinging. So I've got to take time to understand that that's their reality. And if that's the same thing that happens in Iraq, and I got the opportunity to talk to a lot of people, and like their reality is their reality. So I don't appreciate, look, when I look at the flag and the national anthem plays, I'm doing what you guys are doing. I'm thinking about the dudes in the Civil War. As the flag started to fall, the next guy grabs it and goes forward. Nobody's going to get shot because that's what you do. And I'm thinking about all the guys that laid down their lives and gave up all kinds of things to keep us free. And I absolutely don't think that the national anthem is the place to make that statement. However, I'm not those dudes, and I do appreciate where they're coming from. On the other hand, when it comes to the cop type thing, look, again, it may be harder than our jobs. You got to go into people's lives at their worst possible moment and come out with the right decision every time, every night after night. And now there's people hunting you because they don't like your job. We haven't had to deal with that. We've had people that want to kill us and looked at us through a scope and squeezed the trigger. Each of us have had that happen to us, but that's a different thing because you're not in Ramadi. You're not in, Konar province in Afghanistan. So those guys are fighting something that I wouldn't want to have to fight. And then our answer is always like more training, because the training guy in every police division everywhere is like, I wish we had some training to do. Like those guys are all busy. They're at max capacity. There's not a cop. It's like, I sure wish I could do something with these 80 extra hours a week that I have. Like they're all busy. So we have to understand that unless we're willing to pay a lot fucking more money to hire more cops and have a third of them in training at all times, that all costs a lot of money that no one's wanting to put forward.
Right.
So these are complicated things, and it sucks to say.
It's a good thing we got a brain trust like this sitting around here to figure all this out. Cody, feel free to jump in.
But I mean, so this is the thing.
Cody's
is
like, I got to go cook something.
The reality is so much more difficult than what we want it to be. It's not just, and in the words of the song, whatever, we don't sing that verse, and it doesn't bother me, but I'm also not a black dude, and I wasn't living in Francis Scott Key's time. I'm sure he wasn't writing an anthem to slavery. And again, if I was in his time and I had that pen in my hand, would I write something different? I can't say that I would. So I just try to take the idea that the person's perspective is their perspective. It is the way they were raised. Their uncles taught them, their dads taught them, their OGs taught, whoever it was, taught them the way they are. And that's their belief. So I can't change it. I can't correct it, but I can empathize that those things are tough, but I also can't empathize with everything. Like the hate that there's kids being killed in Syria, but what the fuck am I going to do about it? It's like, yeah, there's some things in the world that suck. Moving on to the next thing.
So listeners now want to know, why do they do it?
Why do they
sing the national anthem at the beginning?
Oh,
of the game?
gotcha. Duh. So
or should we have left it to the very end?
So, first of all, but I do love that. I mean, that point about, I think about being a long snapper. What a thankless job that is. But,
yeah.
Not nearly as dangerous as being a police officer, but it's very, at this point, it's just so thankless. And you're right. We have guys in the military. That's what people don't understand either. Everyone appreciates us for our service. There are so many shitbags in the military that did stupid stuff overseas that will never have to pay for it because it wasn't on a body cam or something like that. There just is. There's the dumb stuff that I'm ashamed of being a part of, or ashamed of not being, I didn't participate, but you know what I mean? Like ashamed of being associated with that. But we don't know about that, and it's over there, and they don't see it, so they don't feel it here. And it's like, well, thank you for your service. You're all heroes. Like, we're not all heroes. Sorry. Like, we're not. There's a lot of people that aren't. I don't think I've ever done anything heroic, and I don't think that I earned that title. But there's also, there's people that have gone a step further and done something bad. You know what I mean? So anyway, in defense of even most of the good cops that have never done anything, it's just not fair to them.
Questionable decisions that happened in, I think it was 2004. There was like a French or Italian reporter, and she got snatched up and she got released. And as they were driving back to the American camp, the 18-year-old kid sitting on whatever gun is like, that car's coming straight towards us. And they opened up on it. She lived, but people in that car died. It's, that decision sits with that 18-year-old kid the rest of his life, and did he need to shoot that person? I wasn't sitting there. I don't know. I don't know what they were briefed on. I don't know if they were like, watch out for the yellow opal that's coming. And who knows, but some of those regrettable decisions just are a circumstance of that circumstance. And that's the same thing that happens to some kid that grows up in Miami Gardens and is like, this fucking shit sucks around here. I'm going to get the fuck out of here. And they don't empathize with.
Yeah, but I can't compare like growing up in that type of environment with the bond and brotherhood you get for those that serve. And then, they have an allegiance to, not some anthem, but to the brotherhood that they share for both the good and the bad.
That's what I tell people all the time, too. I'm like, when we're out there, when you're in a firefight, the last thing you're thinking about is the anthem, the flag, patriotism, politics.
We're not fighting any of that. We're fighting the enemy.
You're just thinking about Scott and Pete. How the fuck do I not let Scott and Pete get shot? I don't want to be responsible for that. You know what I mean? That's all you're thinking about, period.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, the history. The story.
The cliffhanger. Or maybe we should make them on episode 2.
In part 2.
People have already Googled it by now. They've already read up. They're like, okay, next.
I wish Nate would shut up.
Dude, this chair.
Talk about that night in the strip club.
Coming out of this chair. I don't know what I did. This is something screwed up. So, 100 years ago, exactly, 1918, we were obviously in the throes of World War I. And it's the World Series. So put yourself 100 years ago in the World Series. And guess who's playing in the World Series in 1918? The Boston Red Sox and the Chicago Cubs. These two teams, the cursed teams, the curse of the Bambino, the GOAT in Chicago, all that stuff, right?
Yes.
This is back when they were always in the World Series, right? So they're in the World Series together, and it's game 1 at Wrigley Field, and Babe Ruth is pitching. And it's the 7th inning stretch. And the third baseman for the Red Sox is a guy named Fred Thompson. And Fred was in the Navy. He was granted furlough to play in the series, right? In the 7th inning stretch, they used to have, back in the day, they used to have military bands that would come to the stadiums and, they would play songs. They didn't have the PA systems. It was just different, right? So the military band during the 7th inning stretch plays a popular military song, the Star-Spangled Banner. And when that was played, because of, I guess, military tradition at the time, I don't know the details of why and how that was what you did, but when that song was played, Fred Thompson snapped to attention, faced the flag, threw up a salute, and out of respect for him, Babe Ruth and the rest of the guys in the field who were taking infield took their hats off and just moment. And I guess the crowd, the way that I've read the story, the crowd all got into it, and they stood up and started singing the song together, and it was like this unifying moment. And game 2, they did it again because it was such a hit in the 7th inning stretch. When the series went back to Boston, they played the song before the game, and they brought out some troops. I think they brought out I read one article, they brought out wounded vets. I don't know if that's true, but wounded guys from World War I, and honored them. And it was this pregame, exactly
cool.
like we do now. So fast forward to 1931 when the Star-Spangled Banner actually becomes the national anthem, because it was not even the national anthem at that time.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons that it was chosen was because its popularity being played at these sporting events and how it seemed to kind of bring everyone together, and it was this really unifying moment, which is so interesting. So the original reason why we do it was to honor the military. And I know the protest is not about the military. I get it. Trust me, I've talked to all these guys, including
you are the authority.
and I get that. But I didn't know this background before. I'm not going to come in here and act like I knew this all along. I had no idea. The only reason I researched it because I was like, you know what? I should know everything about this song now that I'm involved in this whole conversation.
I want you to research what Fred Thompson's MOS was, why he was on furlough. What did that guy do?
And was the other Fred Thompson named after that?
Because the SEALs weren't invented at that point.
You're talking about the
senator, actor.
Yeah.
From Law and Order.
From Law and Order. From
It's the same guy.
For Red October.
It's the same guy.
Same guy. Yep. Rest both their souls.
What did Fred do?
It's interesting, though.
It is interesting.
It's a 100-year anniversary of that.
Yeah. Crazy. And then in Boston, they retired numbers, right? So the numbers that were retired for a long time were 1918. It was one for, I forget who, maybe Johnny Pesky or somebody. Ted Williams is number 9, and then someone was number 18. And so that just sat up there because that was the last time they had won, And then, of course, Chicago had won a bunch in the aughts and then not won.
Yeah. Well, 88 years was it 88 when they won the last one? I think, no, it was 108.
108, yeah.
So, you're right. So they hadn't won since 1908 or
1908. So they'd gone 3 years in a row.
Right. They'd been, but hadn't won. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, crazy.
This is the point in the show where I get really quiet because I'm a self-professed, not non-sports fan, but just I've never had, I like watching
Never
games.
played sports?
Yes, I played sports.
No, you did.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Croquet and
Yeah, you're an officer.
I was enlisted too. No.
Whatever.
No, I played baseball and football in high school. And I swam, but I'm always amazed at guys like that too. I remember his batting average from the 1994 season.
I was obsessed with
I have never had
stats when I was
Yeah.
a kid.
You know that stuff?
Dude, when I was a kid, it was bad.
That's a form of high functioning autism. I think when you can retain all that.
I know I'm on the spectrum.
And many,
now.
I'm sure. Nate is on
that. I still, I'm 37 years old. I still, when I get excited about something, I start daydreaming. Only when I'm by myself, because if other people were around, I'd be self-conscious. so my subconscious would be self-conscious or something like that. But when I'm by myself and I get super pumped about something, I'll start like shaking my hands. And I don't even know I'm doing it. And then I like realize
it looks more like jazz hands for the listener right now.
It does not look like jazz hands.
Jazz hands are faster.
I don't know
Those
what
are slow
that looks
jazz
like.
hands. You and smooth jazz hands.
It's almost like you're doing that like snap thing,
Yeah.
you know? That's not what people might think it is. It's something else.
Back to the strip club. So wait,
But do you ever write that stuff down, or just like, bam, it's in there? Or you're the guy that's got the clipboard and you're like, oh, it's the Final Four, and like keeping track of all that.
Stats and stuff? That was just when I was a kid. Like, I just was like, I don't know. I was a big San Francisco Giants fan.
Do you still do that, though? Do you still retain it? Like, if I had all that knowledge, like,
I remember all the players, their numbers, position,
stuff gets
batting
burned in
order,
there.
but I don't remember like the batting average. No.
But there's like things in there that are crazy because I've got the same kind of thing. I learned early on that if I was in a classroom and listening, it looked like I was doing nothing and fucking around. So I took to making lists and just writing shit down that I knew. Because if I did that, it looked like I was intently listening, even though I'm on a different
Give us
planet.
an example of a list.
I can name every single president and vice president in whichever order you want. Yeah. And I might make a single mistake here and there, but I will know all of them. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Every single what are we even 51? What are we on? I actually don't know. 41. That's what I meant.
Okay, 41.
Wait, what are we on right
41 is George Herbert Walker Bush.
Wow, we're not even close. What are we actually 45?
45.
No, we're on 45.
So, yeah, and then there's like 48 vice presidents, but baseball.
There's a trend. Are all the guests doing sound effects on the show now?
I think that's a thing that we
I
do
made
now.
Pete do them on our last pod.
What was the last one?
I don't know. Yours.
No, I mean, what was the last sound effect?
Oh, well, we were doing sound effects when he and I were last together.
I just like the awkward fart sound. I think it's great.
I didn't do it.
It's that one.
It reminds me of the movie. What's that great movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, Mark Wahlberg?
That one in Boston?
Yeah.
With Whitey Bulger.
Why does
The Departed.
The awkward fart remind you of The Departed?
Because that's Wahlberg's line. He goes, what? He goes, who said that? He goes, Hawthorne. He goes, what? You don't have any Shakespeare, asshole. And like, you didn't see that.
I saw it. I don't remember that part, though. Now I feel like I stole it. God damn it.
I don't think it's copyright.
Yeah,
I don't think that sound is
Wahlberg's
copyrighted.
pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
He's pretty cool.
Can I have a beer, please? Which one? Whichever one you grab. Not an IPA. That's all I don't want. I don't like those.
I don't like those. They're too hipster.
Boston is a good town I just got back from.
Boston is a great town.
And I love the fact that they call it a town.
Speaking of, it looks like they just lost.
Oh, yeah.
Is that it for them then?
No, it's 3-3.
3-3 now.
Going back to Boston. It's Game 7.
Yeah, Boston's fun. My buddy Brian, who's actually going to be a guest in the show, he was a counterintelligence agent like me, a big dude, 6'4", 262, and that's nothing you can do about it. That's how he is, and he's not fat at all. He has a rowing
Neither is
gym.
Cody. What are you saying?
He's a big, powerful guy.
So is Cody.
So is Cody. Cody squeezes bottles hard.
Whoa.
He rowed across the Atlantic Ocean.
Rowed
In a boat. Rowed. He might have rowed. Yeah. But he got in a boat.
flew in a plane across the Atlantic Ocean. Is like now,
Which is also hard. Unless you take an Ambien, then you just kind of fall asleep. But I wanted to ask you, Scott, in terms of combat, we always know how grinding and how much friction there is there, and that's your word. But from friction to outrageous laughter can be seconds sometimes. Give us an example.
Friction to outrageous laughter. I mean, there's just so much absurdity and so many surreal events that happen. And I don't know. You always pin me against the wall. Not like that, man. Cody.
Hard.
But
you always pile drive me in the corner.
You always come off the turnbuckle on my
Over and over.
But no, with like the one question I had never thought of. But
I'll give you a second. So we had a guy. We were all doing this thing in this like piazza in Iraq. I don't know what they call it in Arabic, but this dude, this infantry guy, is like, I got to take a shit. I got to take a shit. I got to take a shit. So he gets out of the turret, goes over, squats, and takes a shit in the guy's front yard. And you're like, dude.
Well, that's commonplace because like Iraqis and Afghanis, like doesn't matter.
Afghans.
Afghans. Sorry, complete opposite.
But you can't shit on someone's sidewalk going into their front fucking door.
Perfectly acceptable in that culture. perfectly
I
acceptable.
mean, there's probably a small
I think
river
now would be a good time for the sound
5
effect.
minutes away.
I think now would be sound effect. Hit the fart button, Nate.
So that is like one of those things, and I got to point it out because the guy comes out and he's like, "What the fuck, you shit in my front yard?" And that translates in every language. And so I go to his NCO. I'm like, I don't want to get in trouble, but he's got to pick that up. He can't leave that there. That guy might blow us up tomorrow, And then
What are
we
they
all
gonna
had the biggest laugh later on.
Stick an IED in the pile of steaming mass.
Yeah.
I mean,
they light the bag on fire, but it's an IED. Gotcha.
Stuck it in worse. I mean, there's
Cody has.
Yeah, there's just so much, surreal behavior. Since we've already devolved again back to the basic high school mentality that the Marine Corps and the military breeds overall. I mean, we always go back to that. But I was telling a story that Spencer shared with me. He called it the wag bag walk of shame. It was like a cycle of life. And, we had the zip up tents. It's like a little pup tent. You got to do number 2 in it without doing number 1. So it's like a cup of kitty litter. Cody's like, what are they talking about? These guys what world do they live in?
Kitty litter.
So they're doing it. And then these young guys got to do number 2 without doing number 1. So it burns. Then they had to tie the bag up, and they got to walk past all their buddies, and inevitably they'll get snickered at. They're like, "Yeah, that's a steaming one," and then they go outside, and they got to throw it in the burn pit. And we had this one firm base where the HME, these big tractors came in, dug this big pool. Like, imagine hiring a contractor to dig a $40,000 pool, and they're like, "Yep, we're out of here." They're like, "Sorry, not coming to finish. We'll leave this big hole here." So that's where we threw all the garbage and shit, and they would have to burn it. And none of the guys want to be on that duty because you don't want to die like that. You don't want to
that duty.
on that.
Dude.
Duty.
There it is.
There it is.
I don't have that sound. That's great.
But Spence gets back from patrol. He's sitting there. He opens up his chow. He's eating his MRE. And Spencer, he sees this like ash falling on the MRE.
Oh, God.
And so, like Sir Isaac Newton with the apple falling on his head. Sound effect. He traces it back and he looks up and he sees like, oh, the Marines are over there, burning in the pool that got dug out. And so he described this wag bag cycle of life. He's like, the Marine goes in, does his business, ties the bag up, throws in, burns the shit burns, ashes rise, ashes fall as the wind blows, and here's Spence eating basically human shit sprinkles on his MRE, which is bad enough. Like, you're eating MRE. Ironically,
It's like clouds.
he did go.
That whole
It's his
cycle.
pee.
He did. Spencer did go on to Le Cordon Bleu and was a great chef.
Shitty chef.
But maybe could have put that on the menu. But he actually worked at Bastards in Downey with Nick Velez, and as we're nearing Memorial Day,
Somebody was just
I will
talking
say
about
this:
Bastards. A bunch of people go to Bastards on Memorial Day. Is that a thing? A bunch of vets?
yeah, it's Bastards American Canteen in Downey. Yeah,
like a Memorial Day thing, because I got some of the guys from MVP are talking about
that's
going
next
there.
weekend. They're going to block off the cops in Downey. Are going to rope off like 4 city blocks. Nick's got the whole thing
on Monday.
Yeah,
It's on Monday.
Yeah, it'll be on Monday. It's a huge event, but Spencer ran the food menu there, and I will say, because it is Memorial Day, we lost Spencer in February to a motorcycle accident.
Mm-hmm.
So although that story is one that's captured for eternity now,
That's the way to
in the
remember
pod,
him, though,
but,
man.
yeah,
That's the way
and
to
it was
remember
Spence.
him. He didn't want you to tell that story.
He told me that story. It wasn't like I was out there watching all this happen. Spencer's like, when I'm doing the book and doing interviews, I'm like, hey, tell me a story, Spencer. They're over at my ranch.
I
And,
ate shit once.
Yeah, I ate shit once. And, like, he's the chef. Like, that is not an indication on the quality of food at Bastards American Canteen. It's fabulous.
Maybe it inspired him.
But, yeah, I mean, he went out to Cordon Bleu and worked in, I think, Santa Barbara for a while, or one of these fancy restaurants. But, yeah, got hit by an 80-year-old lady on a motorcycle, and we lost him in February. So it was tragic. But
Wait, the 80-year-old lady was on a motorcycle?
no, Spence was when she pulled out of the parking lot, and he was fatally injured. But, again, even through those funny stories and all that, and then we move into Memorial Day, I think, I always like to look at those bright stories of guys. And
Dude, that's what, if I died tomorrow, however, or if I died in combat, or even if I took my own life, straight up, like, the way I want to be remembered is stories like that. Like, I want to be that guy. I want you to celebrate me. I want you to have a good time.
Yeah.
Remembering the stupid shit I did and the fun shit I did, and, like, you know, that I was just part of the team, and that
Nate made fart sound effects on the Break It Down show.
That's it. So,
yeah, and I like to quote a great Army general, in your honor, is when Patton said, we should never mourn the loss of these brave men and women, but be grateful that they lived. And I think that says it better than anything, as we honor those that we served with, that we lost and continue to lose to suicide or accidents or whatever.
Right.
As we come close to Memorial Day.
Life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, right on. That's the message I like to hear too.
That's the best way to honor them, man.
Yeah.
Honor their death with your life.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. Do what they would do sometimes.
Yeah, no, that was that came up the other day at MVP, actually. We were talking about Memorial Day, and how cool is it to think of first of all, the opportunities that we have here, a great country, we know that. But whatever your American dream is, we all have our different American dreams. Like, chasing it, pursuing it, that's all they would want you to do, I think, period. You know what I mean? What is your American dream now that you're back? Because they died for us, for you, for America. So pursue your American dream, you know. And if you don't even know what it is, go find one.
I love those
or
success
pursue
stories.
theirs.
Yeah, the chase,
You know what I mean?
the pursuit is the thing, right?
It's the best part.
Yeah.
I just was hanging out with someone talking about that today, and they're a lot younger than I am.
Yeah.
And they're focused on the successes and the goals and the what's ahead. I'm like, the struggle is the only part you're going to enjoy when you're all done.
Yeah.
You'll have those successes, you'll have some accolades, and you're just like, man, I miss the grind. I miss not being there yet, and just trying my ass off to get there. And then once I got there, I was like, okay, cool.
Because it's such a meritocracy. It's like, hey, we don't care what you did, man. Like, what are you going to do next?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
true.
Yeah, that's in us. So what's like one, aside from that one, you have a good success story of a guy you served with, like you maybe he was not a stellar performer, but most of the guys in, groups are.
You're talking about like a shit eater? You want a shit eater?
No, I want something like you never thought he'd do this. He chased his dream, and
Well, I do want to say this about your point a second ago, was I talk to the kids from my high school every year. I go back and I'm like, I'm you from the future. What do you want to know? By the way, I've done a lot of dumb shit, so you can ask me and I'll be honest with you. And so I always tell them, I say, slow down, pursue life. And if you get lucky enough to catch happiness, you're golden. And if not, just do things that guide you. I don't know how many of my friends have told me this. And you guys must have the same thing where they're like, I wish I would have done what you did. I wish I would have made that leap. But whatever reason, they weren't in a mindset to be able to do what we did. And I'm like, you're fucking nuts. Like, you don't want to go get shot at.
Do you say that in front of kids?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I'm just having a vision right now of Owen Wilson, talking to the class of pods and then throwing 7 different kinds of smoke. Like, that's Pete.
7 different kinds of smoke.
That's Pete. Some of you heard this, and I know which ones you are. It'll be valuable in years to come. Sorry, I know you're trying to be very
honest.
esoteric and
esoteric
have
and
some
honest.
prophetic
No, but
Sorry.
it is
Shit
interesting.
on the whole esotericism.
Yeah. I don't smoke weeds.
No, I don't know. It's true, man. But it's hard to understand that as a kid. I know, because everybody tells you that. Oh man.
Well, everything they've been told is very limited.
These are your greatest years. You're like, whatever. I can't wait to get out of here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't tell them. I tell them they have to do something. You can't just sit around and smoke pot and play video games. I mean, that's what you're going to do the rest of your life.
That's doing something, man.
Yeah. But go and do something. Like, go take classes if you're going to college, and they don't all have to apply to your degree. Maybe you get a minor. Maybe you get a double major. Maybe you don't. But you take classes, and where you find the A's, that's where your interest is. And if you could manage to do what you love and make money at it, you're a winner. And if not, you know what you love to do. Go make money doing something else.
Yeah. Or don't make money.
Yeah,
or
right.
Just do
yeah.
stuff.
And just do what you love.
Just do stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what, that's another good, if you don't know what you're into, if you don't know what your American dreams are, whether you're a veteran or not, try things.
Find shit to chase. Yeah.
Just try things.
How many times have you transitioned since you left the military? You know, you went from this to
Every
this.
day, man.
Yeah,
I feel
every
like
day?
I feel like somewhat, I'm not every day, but very often, like, new shit pops up that I'm interested in. I'm like, fuck, I'm going to go try that. I'm into that. I'll check it out. And if I don't like it, I just stop doing it. Just
How many
do something
guys do you
else.
know that get out of the military after like whatever 4, maybe or 20 years, and they think, because that's kind of how we're conditioned. They're like, oh, I'm going to have to do this for 4 years. I'm going to do this job for another 20 years. And I always tell guys like, hey man, if you don't love it, do it again. Transition. Every time you transition becomes easier. And for you, obviously, you're doing that every day. So like, I can't keep up with that. I can't compete with that.
Yeah.
I mean, my other roommate here, Noah, he's out of town right now, but like I think he was in 15 or 16 years. I'm like, dude, why don't you just stay 20
Finish,
and retire?
yeah.
And he was just like, I'm just ready.
He
for
stopped
something
loving
else.
it, huh?
I don't even know if he stopped loving it. He just has a lot of other stuff he wants to do.
Cool. Yeah.
You know, and he came out here to be an actor, and like that's what he wants to do. And like, dude, I support that. Like, that's badass, you know?
And he always has that federal time, so he can always go get a gig doing something federal and be like, apply that time. So whatever.
And he's a vet. Who is he? So we can follow him on Twitter. You know?
Noah Harris.
Noah Harris.
Noah
Yep.
Harris.
Noah Harris.
Hell
10th
of a
group
good
guy as
actor.
well. We were in the same unit.
Yeah.
I've never served together, but same unit.
You know, you can build houses or jobs or whatever. I'm on a board for a couple of 501s, and you do that. It's like this is part of it too. Pete and I were talking about this. Is sometimes people say, "Well, what are you doing to help veterans?" I'm like, "Well, don't tell me how to help veterans, man. I mean, just sitting here and this network, like me and you are at like pen pals for like a year. We're in Bravo 748, and then like we bump into each other at this golf tournament, and then but we share contacts and we're helping other veteran artists because part of that is making sure that these great military stories and these great people who make up less than 0.5% that ever raise their hand and serve, that their stories aren't marginalized in mainstream media. And I think that's cool. I thank Pete for it. I thank so many other guys that do pods and radio shows and TV shows. You know, guys like Frank Buckley, you know, he didn't have to have me on, but he gets it. And he's one of those people that doesn't ask the dumb questions when he's doing an interview with veterans, even though he's never been there.
Right.
He doesn't say, so, Nate, how's your PTS? And I'd turn it around and I'd be like, oh, so, hey, how's your, bad breath? Like, there's just some things you don't ask. But
how's your IBS?
exactly.
The other day, a guy asked me if I'd ever been shot. And it's the same question, and everybody looks at him like, "Why? Why did you ask that question?" You look like, "Are you seriously going to?"
It's like the moron that says, "How many guys have you killed?" I'm like,
That same question,
you just. So yeah, I mean, helping other vets, get them connected.
One too few,
yeah,
sir. One too.
Two.
Not enough. Obviously, we're still at war in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Yep.
Cool, man. I appreciate you hanging out with us and spending time, and always want to have you on the show again and everything. Everybody should find you at Nate Boyer 37. And of course, you're at Echo and Ramadi. Everybody should listen. The book is great, and you guys should absolutely buy it because Pete is telling you to, and Scott will definitely appreciate the thing. Buy it on Amazon. Rate it 5 stars. That is how you help him out. And I would appreciate it. I would consider a favor if you guys did that for my buddy Scott because he's a good guy. So thank you guys both for coming out.
Thank you,
I really
guys.
appreciate it.
Yeah, it's always great.
Awesome.